Hello, I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. Today I have with me in the studio a woman who is certainly committed to this community, an advocate of many causes, but today she's here to discuss multiple sclerosis. She is none other than Miss Colette Jenkins. How are you?
I am wonderful.
Good, good. Always a treat to see you.
Happy as well to see you.
I know. It's amazing. We live in the same city, but then when we run into each other, it seems like it's been forever, and so we were just playing catch up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have, thank you. Yes. We have a lot to discuss, and so we'll try to stay on topic.
Let's try.
Okay, very good. But you want to discuss an event that's coming up related to multiple sclerosis, and we want to talk specifically about how it's prevalent in the African American community.
Absolutely.
And the uniqueness associated with the illness. So I'll let you begin. Let's start off with the actual event itself, and then we'll kind of backpedal about why we need to discuss more and the needed research for multiple sclerosis.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for allowing me
My
to come
pleasure.
on and discuss this. The MS Walk, the Multiple Sclerosis Walk, is scheduled for April 14th. That's on a Saturday. And one of good friends of mine, Annette Robinson, she's formed an organization called Making Strides for MS. And so she's brought together a collaboration of community members and leaders to gear up the support so that we can have this event. It's a fundraiser. However, it's to see people that are living with MS and debunk some of the myths about MS and what we are capable of doing. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to meet and greet people and give us the support I believe that we need.
Outstanding.
Yes.
So let's kind of delve more, do a deep dive into what MS or multiple sclerosis is.
Okay. Well, multiple sclerosis is a diagnosis that I received in 1999. Multiple sclerosis, of course, is a disease, multiple meaning many, sclerosis meaning scar tissue. And it does affect the central nervous system. So in MS, what happens is the immune system becomes overactive and begins to attack the myelin, the installation of the nerve tissue in the brain, spinal cord, and actually the optic nerve in the eye. What happens then when that, for whatever reason, sporadically and just really kind of unknown, when it happens, eating away of that tissue, you will begin to see symptoms. Symptoms such as blurred vision, double vision, numbness in your legs or your arms, tingling, burning, neuropathy, and some of the most classic is the fatigue, what we call the MS fatigue. But this disease, it is very prevalent in our community. And what is so scary about it is when I was diagnosed in '99, I was told then African Americans don't get MS, which was concerning. And the fun thing about it is Montel Williams and I were diagnosed at the exact same time. And so one of the things I was able to get some information really is through his advocacy, him coming out and sharing his experience with MS, his diagnosis, how it had been with him for years, these symptoms that are kind of strange, lurking symptoms that you kind of just deal with, such as falling. I would fall. I just really kind of accepted that I just am a faller, I'm clumsy. But in truth, it was more than that. And as he mentioned, the sudden fatigue, he was very athletic, as I was. At that particular time, I was a state trooper. So I would notice certain times that I couldn't grab the microphone and respond. Seemingly strange. But when I said I couldn't, I was so weak. I mean, when I couldn't explain fatigue because I knew nothing about it, but I had experienced it. But it was as if I would say like an elephant or just a bear was holding me down, and I was simply unable to respond. So those times of falling, and unfortunately quite a few times while I'm out with violators, I would fall. and fortunately nothing ever happened, but I wasn't able to put all of these symptoms together.
Connect the dots.
No connecting of dots, simply because, and I believe this in truth, we are not educated. And the fun thing is, with some of our Caucasian friends that have been diagnosed years back, they knew when they recognized these symptoms, they immediately knew to tell their physicians about the symptoms they were having. Diagnosis would be probable because they were able to give the information to the physicians.
Sure.
So multiple sclerosis, and a lot of people wonder if it is terminal. It is not. There's no cure. So we're living with this disease where we're taking disease modification drugs that are designed to slow the progression.
Excellent.
Because it is a progressive disease, and what it does, it's constantly, our immune systems are hyperactive, so it's constantly eating away at the nerve fibers of my brain, my spinal cord, my optic and my nerve, in my eye. And what we do know is, if not treated, it will advance to where I will ultimately not be able to control my breathing, respiratory. Of course, your brain controls everything.
Sure.
So then ultimately, of course, you'll see things like your heart, your brain, then maybe perhaps then ultimately losing my life. So that's why it's super important to stay on treatment.
Yes.
I started on treatment right away when I was diagnosed. I said, okay, what are we going to do?
Sure.
And he told me it was no cure. I was afraid, but I knew I had to fight. So fighting this means, in the beginning, self-injections. Then ultimately it turned to where there were infusions, and now there are pills. Praise God.
Okay.
So I take pills twice a day, that particular medication for the disease, and it helps slow the progression down.
Great. That's great.
So fortunately, when I have my MRIs in the future, I pray that we'll see significant benefit, that it's not attacking me, no activity, and no extra spots or disease in my brain.
That is, it's stabilized. Well, management is key.
Yes, it is.
And once we start practicing, I love that you said earlier that that our Caucasian friends oftentimes tend to be a little more proactive in addressing it. And I'm sure, and I know this to be factual, it's because of the major disparities that exist within our society, and why there's that apprehension. And sometimes it's not even apprehension. More often than not, it's just having access.
Access and education.
Absolutely, are just critical. So one of the things that you said earlier before we started, and I thought was interesting, and again, we see it manifest in so many different areas, is the need for additional research.
Yes, absolutely.
And making ourselves available and seeking that. So let's speak to that, those individuals that have either see those symptoms, reaching out to those resources to help identify what the cause or what the underlying issue is, and then still being available to contribute to the research piece so that we can learn more and how it affects African Americans differently.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Early, as I mentioned, Montel Williams was, key to my understanding the disease. He connected with a university in California, and in fact in Southern California, that was wanting to help understand African Americans with MS. So I applied for that. I participated in basically sending in blood work from myself, my mother, my brother. We all sent in blood. They sent nurses to our home to collect a blood sample. So all of that was a part of that particular research. But there's research in terms of surveys, answering questions about how you're living, answering questions about if you have been diagnosed, what type of treatment, and if your treatment is successful, if you're able to tolerate the treatment with minimum or maybe exacerbated side effects. So those kinds of things are important. So simply just staying connected to your physician and opening to the National MS Society, because they're offering different research. They're partnering with neurologists and different companies that are interested in finding out the root cause of why MS exists, and then why is MS so progressive in the African American community. And that's something that I'm seriously concerned about.
Interesting. That's interesting. I'm convinced that lifestyle, and again back to those access to resources, and impact the longevity of our lives and the quality of our lives.
Yes,
I think we
Wendy.
just don't consider that.
I believe that.
It's the little things, and then when you look at how the little things add up and the totality of that. So
Sure.
again, you may have some underlying issues they may not realize themselves or itself.
Yes.
If it were not because of these different stressors that are unique to our community.
I agree. I believe that to be so.
Absolutely.
And one of the unique things that I wanted to mention is that they're finding that there are some genetic markers.
Okay.
So simply because while I've been here at the university, I've met a couple of women who have recently been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Interesting.
And a couple of them, let's speak of myself. My father, never diagnosed with MS. He had heart disease, and that was our focus. You know, we were focused and concerned about his heart, whether he was having a heart attack.
Sure.
He had pacemakers, heart bypass surgeries. But there was some things that were happening that we just kind of we took a blind eye to it.
Sure.
Dad would fall randomly. Dad would have the numbness in his arms and his hands. In fact, he would go on to have surgery, an attempt to rectify this symptom that really wasn't what he was told it was.
Okay.
It was funny that he was told he had carpal tunnel syndrome, and he would have the surgery, and then the numbness would continue. And then the next thing, it was in the other hand. He'd have the surgery, the numbness would persist. Truth be told, I really, truly, with all of my being, believed Dad had multiple sclerosis. And so then that lends to the thought that MS is a genetic factor that we need to look into and understand. I have a daughter, and I'm conscious of her experience and being certain that if I recognize little symptoms, just don't sit back and ignore it.
Let's be proactive with this.
Proactive is the key.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
And you have an amazing daughter too. She's
Thank
a whole
you.
nother show until
She absolutely
You did
is.
great.
Thank
You did absolutely great. Your mom is
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
But one of the things that before we wrap up, and I'm so proud to hear this because you've always been active in the community in one form or another.
Thank you.
I think that's just a part of your DNA.
Thank you.
Is that I heard you say, and I read something a couple weeks ago. I was like, she's in school. And
Yes!
She's at Albany State. That's so wonderful.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
wonderful. Political science, what's your
Yes,
major?
political science is my major.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
And I say that for a reason, and this certainly does tie into the MS before we wrap up. And so
Okay.
what you're also saying is that you are still continuing to live, following
Yes.
your dreams and your
Yes.
aspirations, and that is what life is all about. So
Yes, Wendy.
because you have health challenges, does not define who you are, and you're still
Amen.
navigating this path and
Yes.
decided that you wanted to. I'm so proud of you with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've found that, and I've been a non-traditional student myself from time to time,
I
is
hear.
that I always find them, don't tell anybody, that they are some of the best students. the
I
non-traditional
really
students.
believe that.
Yeah.
I totally believe
Focus,
that.
there's that drive,
Yes.
and there's that commitment to the degree pursuit, and you provide an example for other
you.
students as well. So I know
hope
you
so.
will do well.
Yes, I'm excited. Looking
Good.
to complete my bachelor's in the fall.
Outstanding.
But then go on and continue on with my master's. So it's been an incredible experience.
Good.
And as one of my professors, Dr. Danquah, said to me, this is really therapy for you.
Great.
And I think it is.
It is. It
I
is.
encourage students, non-traditional students, to come on back.
Come on
And
back.
get back into education.
I love it. I love it.
Thank
Tell
you.
us those dates again of the MS Walk.
Yes, coming up again on April 14th, Saturday, April 14th, and we will meet on Pine at the Friendship Baptist Church parking lot. We will begin there with the registration and get your T-shirts. Get set up to begin the walk around town. I think it'll be a 5K, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and Ed has done an excellent job of getting the community together. So we're looking to see everyone there, and if they will come and just support us. You know, show us that you can do some things to support us. And here's some of the information that we'll be posting that day.
That's
so
key.
it's great.
That's key. I had another guest on just last week, and she's an advocate for autism.
Oh,
she's
yes.
having an upcoming event, and what I always love about those events, and we discuss this, is that you then have an opportunity to then discover that there's other people that
Yes.
share this world that you find yourself in, because
Yes.
a lot of times you feel like you're an anomaly.
Yeah.
I'm the only one challenged with this or experiencing this, and then you go and you say, there's Colette Jenkins, or there's
Others. Sure.
right, and so that common bond is then established, and it makes it a little easier.
Oh, definitely. It makes it a lot easier.
Okay, very good.
A lot
Very
easier.
good,
So that's
good.
why it's important for us to come out. Those who have been diagnosed, those who just want to be a support for us, and just have fun. Have a good day.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Again, always good to see you. Such a
Excellent.
treat.
Thank you.
And I'm
Good to
so
see you.
very proud of you. And thank you for being a brave face for MS.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Know
Thank
that you're
you.
always welcome back.
Oh, I'll be back. I'll be back
Good
soon.
deal. Good
yes,
deal.
Ma'am. Thank
Viewers,
you.
thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Realizing Potential. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I will see you next time.